Hey, welcome to a foreigner in the Philippines. Well, after some of the other recent videos that we've been doing, that I've been doing, and in some cases losing me friends and subscribers because people don't want to look at some of the things which are facing us right now, and all of which can seem so beneficial. Now, I've mentioned before that I went to the UK on a visit to my son over there, and I was a little bit surprised to see the degree to which, and this brings me to the subject of my little talk, how cashless they are approaching. And probably it's even worse now. You can pay for things without any inconvenience at all. Money in, if you're a worker receiving wages, your money's paid straight in, and then you use a card for everything. Get on a bus, you have a card. Get on a train, you have a card. Go at the theatre, you pick up the phone, which is a tiny thing. As we all know, like this, nobody has a landline anymore, do they? I don't think. And so it all seems so convenient, and now it's even more so. Now they really are moving to being cashless, and there is one particular. There's a country in Europe. I'm not quite sure. I don't have the reference in front of me. I looked for it on my phone. I have it on my phone. Couldn't find where it was. I think it was Norway. Not quite sure. So don't quote me on that. Could be Norway or maybe Denmark. I'm not quite sure. One of the Norse countries, and they've gone over almost completely now to being cashless. And so what does it mean? I'm trying to present both sides of the, personally, my personal preferences, that I'm looking in horror at the idea of not having cash. I really do think that it is an ultimate, maybe not the ultimate, but certainly a gigantic step towards even more control than is happening right now. But I wrote down a few things, just a few things, that speak in favour of no cash. No coins. No coins, no change, no traditional bricks and mortar banks, because it's all online. Easy monitoring of finances. What could be easier? You do everything on your phone. It's just so simple. So easy monitoring. You pay bills, you pay tickets. My son, while I was there, bought tickets. He just picked up his phone, quoted his number on the phone, paid for the tickets for a show. It was so easy. He even bought me my own card for the bus so that I could experience that part of it, knowing that I was coming from the Philippines. So you can pay ticket. If it's cashless, truly cashless society, you can pay for the smallest thing, and everybody is set up for it. They would have a machine that was probably no more than this, and you scan the thing on there, the ticket or the card or whatever it is, you scan it and it is just deducted. Now, there's no robbery. No point in sticking anybody up unless you're going to take their watch, because they don't have any cash. And so, and the other thing is, for the law abiding, tax is all down. There's no evasion. Presumably the country will become more wealthy. Yeah, right. Not sure about the people, but that would all happen. And there's so much more. I mean, money in, money out. It just would be so easy. ID theft, the danger of ID theft. I'm sure that would be brought to almost nothing. So what's my beef? My beef is that it's one step further towards the ultimate control, and it just begs for this to be the next step. And that is, and everybody's going to go, oh no, God, he's going on about that again, the chip. And the chip is going to be there, and it's going to be so convenient. There is a company, Midwest in America, and the company are all in favor of the chip, to the extent that they have fitted everybody with a chip for free. Isn't that wonderful of them? So now these people have here, I believe it was here, have the thing in there, and it's no bigger than a grain of rice apparently, and that will be the next step. Now once you've done the step, it's easier to take another step, and the other step will be to have the there's another step on, which will mean that you don't even have a chip. I find this extremely of extreme concern, because once you get that in, it goes in almost like a tattoo. Now, I read about the different ways that they're going to be able to deliver this thing, and one of them was, and I likened it to a band-aid. So you get something that's about as big as my thumb, and they've perfected a way to do it. I mean, obviously all of this is all done already. They've got this all in waiting, and somebody accused me in effect of saying that he said that nobody needs your permission to get anything, which is absolutely true. But it supposes, it implies that I said that you do need, that anybody needs to even take notice of what I'm saying. My hope is that people will take this as a moving on point at which they can start to look at the evidence. There's so much evidence as to what is happening, and it's not a case of being biblical. The thing is all there in the Bible anyway. It's not a case of being religious. It's a case of the final battle, to my mind, of good against evil, and this is something that concerns everyone, and you can't turn your back on it. Kind of reminds me of that gag, just to lighten it up a little bit. We all know that that expression of when you're denying something, it's like sticking your head in the sand. Like an ostrich, that they stick their head in the sand and then they think that they're invisible. And it reminds me of that Aussie gag of two ostriches, two female ostriches, or taking a walk in the bush, and then one of them says to the other, "Don't walk now, but there's a couple of guys following us." And the other one, even though she's been told not to look now, she takes a look around like this, and sure enough, there's two male ostriches are following them. So the females speed up a little bit, and they get round this little bend around a rock, get round the rock, scurry on just a few feet, and then they stick their head in the sand. The two males see that they've disappeared around the rock, and they speed up and they rush around, and they get around and they look and they say, "Where'd they go?" Maybe that didn't travel so well. we can't stick our head in the sand, because mandatory injections has already been mandated in, I believe, Denmark. But there was such a massive outcry, they actually put it into law. There was such a massive outcry that they had to take it out of law. And that, I'm hoping, is what's going to happen now. But you can go on. People think that I have it in for old Billy Boy. Can't even really say his name, because the powers that be, not the elected powers that be, but the private concerns and big corporations of these extremely wealthy people, they can censor what we are saying. The only thing that keeps us censor free on something like Facebook and YouTube is that you can post it, and people who are in the know, who are woken up, will copy it and send it on to someone else. So it just gets blitzed and copied and shared and shared and shared and shared and shared. And so that's when you get thousands, sometimes millions of shares of something that is of extreme importance. And so that's what happens. And so they've made a trap for themselves by their own invention. But you've got, can they stop you from seeing information? They can do it. They can do it. Just imagine this. One little college guy who had an idea and formed Facebook was able to censor the President of the United States, the most powerful nation in the world. Let's not argue about whether America is more powerful than the up-and-coming, or maybe already arrived China. We won't go into that on another day when I know a bit more. Okay, but just imagine that a private individual can censor the President of the United States. Now, the stuff that we're not being allowed to see is so incredibly important to our future, and yet we're being censored. And not only that we're being censored, but we're being marked. And this is absolutely true, that we're being marked. Now, we need to be doing our research, and we need to be looking at not just about the good side of how easy it would be if we could just walk around and if you get used to the idea of having the chip, and it doesn't hurt, it's free, and it contains every piece of information which you might need. Now that's the good side. You can go to the doctor, and when you wave to him like that, he's got you on his computer, and he knows all your history, and he knows all your allergies, and he knows what your blood type is, and he knows all of that, and he knows all of that. Now, given the right key, he also would know whether you were in good standing for any number of things. He would know your prison police records, he would know your parking tickets, he would know how much you had in the bank, he would know whether you had ever been late on a payment. Now, in America, they're already on this from years and years ago, when they have these 3 credit companies, credit rating companies, and you are rated on your credit worthiness, okay? Which a lot of people who are in agreement with this would say, well, pay your bills and you'll have good credit. It's very simple, and it is very simple, except that sometimes when you're right on the edge, it can all work against you. And in the in the US, now you can check up on this, don't take my word for this, but if you're in the US you'll be able to find this out very, very easily. And that is that if by chance you were late on a power bill, water and power, it's water and power in America. So water and power bill, and you're late on it. Now you can be late for a multitude of different reasons, and they're not all because you're a scumbag. Now one family went through an incredibly trying period of time because they trusted Walmart to pay their bill. When they went in, something happened between them handing over the money to the bill actually being received by the water and power. They didn't receive it. They didn't receive it on time, and it went past the point where they needed to have it paid, and their electricity, their power and water was cut off. It went through agonies trying to get that sorted out. Meantime, their credit rating is up the or down the whatever, and they're suffering. So if you're late on a power bill, if you are, it's all goes in. It was even then it was all going into the same data bank. Now, just imagine that is happening. Boy, even if you were late on your car registration, that would affect your credit rating, and your credit card company would know about it. This was fact. Would know about it and would put your interest rate up because you were more of a risk, is how they would look at it. So they can make these judgment calls, and it costs you money. Now, it's very important that we realize that cashless society means storage of data. Now, where is that data being used? There are data brokers, and these are people that have access to billions of pieces of data. This is not conspiracy. Nowadays, anything that you say that disturbs someone, they say, oh, it's conspiracy. I'm not going to listen. You must listen, because it's going to affect you. Where is your information going? Now, unless you really have been asleep, and I'm not being facetious, unless you really have been asleep, you must be realizing that somewhere, somehow, what you have just looked at on YouTube has been fed to someone, because you may have had one of those phone calls which I get periodically. Oh, Terence, in order that we might be able to serve you better, can you tell us what particular service you were inquiring about? I never inquired. So, they are receiving a piece of information about me which indicates that I am interested in the wibbly wobblies or the angle of the dangle that is served on the Acme agency. Now, I never told them, I never answered an ad, I never clicked on an ad, and yet here they are getting in touch with me, knowing that I'm interested in that because I've looked at something that somewhere artificial intelligence, oh God, listen to the conspiracy about all of this. Somewhere artificial intelligence is sifting through this information, and it is there is a phrase for it. What was it called? I don't know, something like online. Yeah, I can't remember what it was. I'll remember it in a moment. Okay, forgive me. It's important to know that all of the benefits that you are going to be offered of ease, no, not carrying any money, safety, ID protection, all of the, just so easy to just pay the bill, it's never late, all of that's so easy. You have to look at what else is going to be seen. And it's so easy for all of that information to go where you don't know it's going to, and then what is going to happen? How is it going to be used? How are you going to have predictions made about what you are interested in? Now, that takes on, and this widens out, it just widens out to include all kinds of other things. Once you have the cashless society, then you have, how are we going to deliver this cashless society as a service? How will we do that? Eventually it will come to something that is under the skin, because it's so convenient. They're doing it to dogs, and they're suggesting that you could do it to your child. Why would you do that to your child? Well, because probably tens of thousands, possibly hundreds of thousands of children are kidnapped worldwide and used, killed, tortured, raped, all of this terrible, terrible things, and it's happening all the time. And one paedophile in prison that they interviewed in order to try to find out more about why people do these things said it's the motiveless crime. The first thing that any cop will go for when he makes his first foray into investigating a crime is, what was the motive? Who has the motive to do this? And here we are, people who take children are saying it's the motiveless crime. You drive to another area, you go along there, pick up a kid. Who can logically put together why someone would do that? So, all of these things are very seductive. I mean, for any mom or dad, the idea that a little something as big as a grain of rice can be put into their kid's skin, hardly hurting for a moment. They're receiving vaccines anyway. So they can have this, and then it's like that, didn't they have, they had something that they can put into a car, and the car, unless it's driven with you in it, I mean, I have a keyless entry to my truck. I don't even have to, I just got the key in my pocket. So the unit, the little unit that you get, which is like a remote control, I have it in my pocket, and when I go up, as long as I have it in my pocket, I put my hand on the lock and the door opens, right? So they also have it so that if somebody else drives the car and manages to hotwire it and steal the car, it will not drive more than a few hundred yards, and then it will conk out and it won't be able to be started. So these things are already in motion to an incredible degree, so that they're going on now, and they're going to be Gates is already on now. I haven't been able to open this particular video, but someone sent a video to me and it said Gates caught talking about changing DNA permanently. Now imagine that your DNA could be changed permanently. Now they tried this permanent thing by putting in birth control into women so that they could have an injection, and for 3 months they would not be able to conceive. And that didn't work out too well either, because what was supposed to be only for 3 months or whatever it was turned out to be a lifetime. So all of these things start out with supreme arrogance. This is going to be everything. You know, about when I was a musician and I was working, and at one point the band that I was working with did, for a summer season, we did one night at every holiday camp, and it was a good summer. And at one of those holiday camps there was a little girl. She was about 14, she was a teenager, young, lovely, sweet-natured, pretty, everything, who would normally have such a great future. She didn't have any arms. All that she had was coming straight out of her shoulder, little kind of flippers like this. She was what became known as thalidomide child. She was a thalidomide child. Her mother had received a wonder drug called thalidomide to calm her down when she was feeling stressed during her pregnancy. Now they're much more cautious about giving pregnant women anything. But that was done with all of the arrogance of science, and it's all been there. Now we're talking about DNA. Now, if you look at, everybody knows what the DNA looks like. It looks like one of those things that's swirling around like this. And we have so many strands of DNA. And 80 or 90% of the DNA that we have inherent in our makeup, they don't know what it's for. They haven't worked it out. So here we are with the supreme arrogance of science will do it all for us. And they don't know 80% of the purpose of our DNA. And yet they are going to interfere with the DNA that is operating. And from what I see, they're going to snip into the strands, those two strands that are swirling around like this. Snip into that and insert into it a different, what will we call it, formula. I'm going to insert that in. Now, it's one of those things. People have trouble with their thyroid, and nowadays they remove the thyroid. Once it's gone, it's gone. And they're finding things out about the thyroid all the time. I have a friend who posts on Facebook, you'll see him, he's written a book on the thyroid. He is something of a naturopath. About the thyroid is his speciality, and his name is John the Sailor. He writes under John the Sailor. Look out for him. He would be appalled at the idea that anybody would have their thyroid taken out, because it handles so many vital functions of the body. And yet here we are, science, the medical profession say, we're having a lot of trouble with this thyroid, why don't we take it out? Once it's out, it's gone. Once our DNA is interfered with, that's it, it's gone. So, we're going to have to think very carefully about this. And everything follows in a logical sequence. And once you look at that as a logical sequence and start to analytical thought for yourself, not not from me, not from anybody. All that you need to take away from anything that I've said now is, maybe I should look into this for myself. That's the thing. Someone can tell you that a band is the best thing in the entire universe, musical universe. But until you go and see them yourself, until you listen to their music yourself, you have not really reached a logical decision. And that's a superficial. I know it's an oversimplification. I have to try to do those oversimplifications, not because you're dumb, but because we are overall being dumbed down. If you've got a TV, personally, we have a TV on the wall there, I can see it from here. I would not have a television in my house, but I live with someone who likes to watch television. Actually, she watches more of YouTube and downloaded movies than the television, but we've got a nice flat screen TV, and it's all set up and works beautifully. And since we've lived back in our red house with it all done up, we've hardly ever had the TV on, but she's watching something else. Okay, so the conditioning is extreme. We are conditioned to suppose that things are other than what we're actually seeing. Listen to this and take this and remember it for an example. The next time that you see a commercial for toothpaste and you watch, you'll see the person, first of all, they'll put something on that toothbrush that's about this long and it folds back again. Then they'll load that as if into their mouth. But when you watch what they actually are doing, they don't have any toothpaste on the brush. So they show you a little clip of it going on like this, and then they show you the beautiful model or handsome model with the perfect teeth, and he's doing this, but there's no toothpaste. I know that if I put that much toothpaste onto my brush and then stuck it in my cake hole, I would look like I'd look as if I had rabies. I was frothing at the mouth. It would be going everywhere. And yet, here we are, being sold on a toothpaste without the use of the toothpaste on the model. Have a look at that the next time that you see it. So, cashless society sounds great. We're already halfway there with credit cards. We'll get rid of the banks, and then all of our information, not just part. You can't go halfway. You know, people think that they can go halfway on things, right? And it doesn't work. It really doesn't work. You know, Groucho Marx, who was a great wit, was refused membership because he was a Jew. He was refused membership of a particular club that was close to where he lived, in Beverly Hills probably, and he was refused on the basis that he was Jewish. And they didn't allow Jews as members, and really all he wanted was so that his son could use the swimming pool. So when they refused his membership, he said, could my son is only half Jewish. Maybe he could go in the water up to his waist. We all have a good way of describing things when we're given time. Follow it through, look at it for yourself. Don't be offended by what is being said by people who you disagree with. You cannot put you can't put people's views down no matter what they are. You have to allow that people are going to think differently to you. You know, some people would give their life, they'd give their right arm, don't know how they drive after that, but they'd give their right arm to have a Lamborghini. And other people would only even entertain having a Ferrari. People are different. People are different. Some people like weather that is cold, and some people like weather that is hot, and some people like a bit of both. We're all different, and we all need to respect the opinions that the different people have. And if we could do that, we would be getting on a lot better. Meantime, we need to be looking at what is happening, because there's some serious stuff going down at the moment. Thanks for looking in. Bye for now.